بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الحمد لله رب العالمين هو الذي جعلنا مسلمين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He revealed to us something amazing, and He calls it in the Quran His ni'mah, na'im, from the ayah in Surah Al-Ma'idah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us, Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum Islam dinan. So we found that this word, na'im, you can't find a word in English really, except you give a sentence or maybe a paragraph or even a book about this beautiful gift. If we allow me to say this word gift, a big favor or gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is He talking about? And He's talking about Raditulakum Islam ad-Dina. And He's saying that this is the deen of Islam itself, to have this deen. Some people call it religion, which may not be wrong, but it might even be more powerful to say your way of life, because everybody has a way of life, not everybody has a religion. SubhanAllah, and Allah is telling us this way of Al-Islam, the surrender, submission, obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sincerity and peace with Him, all of that in another beautiful word, Islam. And so this is a big gift. It's something very, very powerful and wonderful that goes beyond my capability to, really explain all of it. But just to introduce this subject to us, and it came at a time, 1400 years ago, and in a place, in some ways, a little bit different from where we are now, because the people then, those folks, well, they had a little bit rough. And a lot of the people themselves were rough. Turns out, if you take some time to study and learn about those people, they used to, they had some pretty bad habits, according to our standards today, for sure. The men were very, macho or chauvinistic, you know what I'm saying? And many of the people were drunks or alcoholics. That was their nature. That's what they did. Women, on the other hand, now they had a rough way to go. The women of those times, they had such a hard time, to the extent that really sometimes they were treated less than the animals. I mean, they would give more respect to a herd of sheep than they would to their own sisters and mothers. This is really a hard time. Now, when we come to another subject, I learned this from one of our Sheikhs here in America, Siraj Wahaj. He taught us a word. I remember it real well. It was in May of 1999. He was teaching. He wrote it up on a board at a conference we had. He said, with ayin, he's emphasizing the ayin, So he put the ayin and he said, Asabiya. Asabiya. How many knows what's Asabiya? You know this Asabiya? Everybody know? Yeah. Everybody know Asabiya, okay. So Sheikh was spending a lot of time explaining this word, which he called party spirit, or tribal, like, you're dedicated to be like a political party. Your party is better than their party. Your tribe better than another tribe. And then it comes into almost like racism, where you have our group, our way, better than your way. Never mind what your way is, I don't care. You're not us, I remember a president saying something like, if you're not with us, you're with the terrorists or something like that.
From Texas.
Let's give him a speech. Come on, man. Give me a break. He's right, from Texas. So this thing was so bad, and Sheikh Raji was telling us how really bad it is, that it's rotten. It's something from Islam we learned. This is rotten, so you should leave it. And I hope and I pray that after coming into Islam, Allah will accept from me and from all of us that we would not do that, because it turns out this is something that could keep you out of paradise. Now, why did I come to Islam to start with? I want to go to Jannah. I want to be with Allah. I want to, I sure don't want to go to the hellfire. And this is one of the things, it's a big test actually to try to overcome. Just a few minutes ago, I was sharing with one of our beautiful brothers outside about ethnicity, sort of, talking about where you're from, and we're talking about it. He said, well, really, he grew up in another country from, not the country his parents are from. And this is common. If you meet somebody from Jordan and he said, well, I'm not really from Jordan, I'm from Palestine. And you say, but you've been to Palestine? No. Even his grandparents maybe weren't there, but it's still, there's a dedication there. And I can understand and I feel for that, really, in a way. But at the same time, all of us are from the same source, if you ever thought about it. Of course, in Surah Al-Hujurat, Allah tells us about that chapter 49 of the Quran, when Allah says that He's the one who created all of us from who? From a single one. That's Adam. And from him, his mate, that's Eve or Hawa. And from these two, many tribes and nations, and then look what He said. He made us different. Why? So we recognize each other. Now, check this out. This is just something, when I was trying to figure it out myself and then read about it a little bit more. Could you imagine if we all looked exactly alike? I mean, really? Everybody is exactly alike. You'd be like, excuse me, are you me or am I you? I'd be like, what am I going to do, man? So we have to look different, right? And Allah said, so you can recognize each other. And we can. I can recognize. Sometime I meet a brother from Egypt, and I just know. And as soon as I start talking to him, he's from Egypt. Or especially somebody from Turkey. When I look at him, I said, this guy, man, I'm sure he's from Turkey. But I'll check it out. And I start listening to his voice. Next thing I'll go, Niselson. And he goes, hey, which is, you're saying like Kevalik, and he's saying, good chick, whatever. And alhamdulillah, when you see somebody, you do recognize them. You can start thinking, like, what is his brother from? Many times somebody will be from Bangladesh. And you recognize them, you start talking to them. I gotta tell you something funny about that. I was doing tawaf one time up on the top of the, when you do Umrah or Hajj, we were doing Hajj. Eddie with the Dean Show, maybe some of you heard about him, Sheikh Muhtar Sabri, Harris Tobing, all of us were up there going around. All of a sudden a group of Hujjaj, guys doing Hajj, come running at me. And they're talking to me, I don't know what's this language, and but Eddie Dean Show, he runs one of those martial art companies, and Harris, who's with us, has a black belt and everything you can think of. And Sheikh Muhtar, big guy, said, these guys will protect me. You know what they did? They all step off over to the side, right? And they're going, hey, Sheikh's in trouble. Anyway, thanks a lot. Anyway, these guys come to me, and they're pushing me, everything, and grabbing at me. I'm like, I only got 2 towels on, guys. Take it easy here. This is scary, man. Turns out they were from Bangladesh. And they had seen a lot of the Peace TV over there translated to Bengali language. So they thought I could speak it. I was stuck. But we recognize each other and we know something about each other by our features, by our colors, by our shape of our head, by the way we talk. So there's many things about us that make us unique and make us different, so that we're not all the same person. But I heard something one time, I don't know how authentic this is, but I heard about it and it sure made me think. Somebody was telling us that Adam, alayhi salam, he's made from dirt. All of us coming from a tin, the dirt, right? said that Adam was made up of dirt from all over the earth. Now, I don't know how authentic it is, but it just makes you think. If Adam's made up from all of that, you say, where he's from? He said, I'm from Earth. Kind of like, somebody come from another planet. Where are you from? I'm from Earth. All of the Earth. So if this is right, and if you think about it, all of us are from Earth. So how important is it to say I'm within these particular borders of the Earth? Or that, my group somehow is better than this group or that group. And then I was remembering, there used to be an evangelist, TV evangelist out here in California. And he had a TV show on satellite, real late at night. And he used to sit there and read these books to his people that want to stay up all night and watch stuff like that. And one time he was telling us about a book. And the content of it was talking about different races being better than others. And he was making fun of the book and the author. And in particular, because the book was one of these, it's trying to justify why it was okay for the Europeans to come to this country and wipe out the Indians. Called them savages. And why it was okay, think about why it's okay to go into Africa and capture people there and take them and make slaves out of them, because after all, they were more close to the early evolutionary stage of the human being, blah, 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 basically to do what? To make slaves. This same book, talking about everything from shapes of head, thickness of skulls, color of skin. And by the way, this guy is whiter than me. Now listen to what he said though. And it really shocked me. He said, because the guy was, the author of the book, is quoting in the book of Genesis from the Bible, talking about the son, I guess son of Noah that was cursed and sent out, and you know the story. Yeah, and he's got this curse on him. Yeah? And he said, if this is a true story, and he has a PhD in religion, he said, if this is a true story, and it's because of skin, it's the white man. And man, you could hear a pin drop in his studio. Yeah, everybody there is white people working there, right? They are like, huh? He said, yeah. He said, because if your skin is dark, you can go anywhere in the world. You don't have any problem. He said, but if you have skin like mine, now, when you go up to the very north parts and the sun will come out there and bounce off of those ice things and all that, man, you're getting cooked and you're getting red and you're getting a problem. Now, if you go to the equator, you got a whole another problem with the sun. So anywhere you go, you can get skin cancer, melanoma, that kind of stuff. And he said, if this is the case, which obviously he didn't believe that, but he said, if this is the case, this would be the guy with the curse. You all need to just kind of change your focus and think about it. So this is, I think, a chance for all of us to come together and think real hard about the choices of the people that we want to follow, the people that we want to support, and the people that we want to choose to be over us as leaders in the world today. Because if they can't see past skin color, we'd sure like to introduce them to something called Al-Islam. Because in Al-Islam, we really, really do understand a lot more about what's inside of a person. And this is what Almighty God looks at, what's in you, not what's on you. And when I was working in the slaughter business many years ago, I was learning how to do the biha. We lay the animal down and get him relaxed and use a real sharp blade, be sure that he doesn't feel any pain and so on. And so I was getting pretty good at it. I did about 153 one morning, and by Dhuhr, I was finished with all 153 of them. And while I was doing that, you know, and I wasn't doing everything, I was just doing the slaughter part, okay? They had guys working there who would hang them up and take the skin off of them and remove the hides and get them, all that. So at times I'd have a break and I'd be looking, and I saw all of them hanging on these chains that moved the carcasses around the room to get the different processes. Now when they brought the goats, these were goats, in, they were all colors. They were spotted, they were dark, they were brown, they were white, white and black, they're all different kinds, different sizes, they were all different. But with the hides gone and hanging up, they all looked alike. And every one of them was bleeding red blood. The same as you and I. But when we get cut, we bleed red blood. So there really isn't any difference. And the very real proof of this is anybody who works in the medical field knows that when we need blood for any victim of any problem, you know, when we need blood for them, then it doesn't matter the color of the skin, it only matters that blood type. And you will be surprised if you think somebody has to look like you to have your blood type. You might not find 1 in 100. You might not find 1 in 1,000. Because if you said, I need it to be, if you're a woman, you said, I need it to be a woman, and she has to be so tall, and she has to be this complexion, it had to be, you may never find anybody. But you will be surprised that the Almighty, He knows best what He created. He knows what's in us, not what's on us. So if anybody feels that they want to support billionaires or people with hair problems that don't understand the very basic of the Constitution of the United States, which calls in itself, calls us to work together as a united, that's the first word, isn't it? USA? No, is united. And how are you going to be united if you're going to start out with that foolishness? I'm just saying. Not calling to anything other than just putting aside some of these things. And I'll close by mentioning this, that before I came to Islam, I used to be a white guy. Alhamdulillah, now I'm a Muslim, and that's not important anymore, is it? Great to be with all of you tonight, and I'm so glad we had this chance to open up and talk about it, especially in these days on this occasion, when this is a vital and important point to every human being on the planet to understand and come together for the sake of what? A real unity only comes after we put aside these false, fabricated facades and differences. Alhamdulillah for Islam. Alhamdulillah for the one who made us Muslim. Alhamdulillah alladhi ja'alna muslimin. Assalamu alaikum.
The truth and prostrate to you until I took the first step, and that's when you opened the doors for me. Now, Allah, I realize what I was missing.